Well, it's time for your top stories on The Brief. The nation continues to express outrage over the killing of 17 military personnel in Okuama, Delta State on March the 14th. For this time, the National Assembly is asking the executive to ensure that those responsible are identified, apprehended, and brought to face the full consequences of their actions through a fair and transparent legal process. The federal lawmakers also want the government to immediately compensate the families of the slain soldiers and act President of the Senate. The motions on the issue were discussed separately in the Senate and in the House of Representatives at Tuesday's plenary sessions.
Troops of 181 Amphibious Battalion, while on a peace mission to Okuama community in Bomadi local government area of Delta State, were surrounded by some community youths and killed on Thursday 14th, 2024. The unfortunate incident occurred when the troops responded to a distress call after the communal crisis between the Okuama and Okoloba communities, both in Delta State.
What happened in Delta was not an accident. It was a designed and well orchestrated. Those who did that deserve to be condemned.
We direct an inquiry, direct the appropriate committees to go into this matter and then give us a full report. Let's know what really happened.
This is a very sensitive issue, Mr. President. It is very sensitive, and we must handle it in the manner that it will not escalate.
Urge the federal government to ensure that those responsible for this heinous crime are identified, apprehended, and brought to face the full wrath of the law through a fair and transparent legal process. Those in support of prayer to say aye, those against say nay. The ayes have it. It's a very sad development. I think the Senate awaits the outcome of the investigations. So I urge the committees on defense, committee on army, committee on navy, and the committee on air force combined to liaise with the military to find out, to obtain for first hand for us the outcome of the investigation on in respect of these dastardly killings. By the time the whole thing is established, we will know whether the people who were killed as a result of community conflict or as a result of external forces. Whatever we have condemned, and we are not happy. No Nigerian is happy over this incident.
Meanwhile, Governor Sheriff Oborowori of Delta State is optimistic that those behind the soldiers' killings will be found. Well, he said this after meeting with the president of the State House to brief him on the circumstances that led to the incident. Governor Oborowori condemned the attack, noting that the state government is working with security agencies to ensure peace returns to the community.
Mr. President assured me that the peace, as in support of the peace, and we both condemn the killing of the officers and the soldiers because they are there on peace mission. And what is happening now is something that we did not bargain for. But we want to assure everybody that there will be no more attack on the villages. If there's anyone that has happened in the past, there will be no attack. But we know that those who are culpable will be brought to book. So some of those issues are security issues that you can't say publicly. That's the truth. And we're managing the situation. So the issue of whether a place has been burned down or people have been killed, it has happened. But the way forward, what is the way forward? The way forward are two ways. The people that have been killed, the officers and soldiers, we must see how we can find succor for this family and all, and giving a befitting burial. And also the community, anything that has happened in the community in the past will not happen again. We assure them, but the people who are culpable will be brought to book.
Well, staying with that situation, members of the Joy Youth Council have raised an alarm over what they described as the killing of some natives of Igbo community of Bayelsa State, allegedly by military personnel. The president of the IYC, Alaye Theophilus, made this known during a press conference in Port Harcourt, the River State capital, where he claimed that soldiers in gunboats invaded Igbomaturu community and killed an unconfirmed number of people. The Nigerian army is yet to react to the allegation, though it may not be unconnected with the ongoing military operation in nearby Okuama community in Delta State. Well, the Bayelsa State Police Command is assuring residents that it is monitoring the corridors of the state to avert any violence that may result from the attack on military officers in Delta State. Well, Delta shares land and waterway boundaries with Bayelsa, and the police is not ruling out the possibility of the hoodlums from Delta making an attempt to escape through Bayelsa. The police commissioner gave a real-time demonstration of how they monitor all angles of the state using drones. And now to the courts, where there was mild drama at the Federal High Court, Abuja, as a leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, Mr. Nnamdi Kanu, protested his continued detention in the facility by the Department of State Service. He's also alleging that the charges brought against him by the federal government is politically motivated, saying that peace will be restored in the southeast in 2 minutes if he's released from DSS custody. Mr. Kanu's outburst followed the denial of his bail application by Justice Binta Yako.
We are here to fight for freedom, for justice, equity and fairness. That's what we're fighting for. Nothing more, nothing less. And we cannot be cowed by anybody. We are without fear before our enemies. And we speak the truth always. I want all the journalists here arrayed to go and ask them, ask government of Nigeria, what happened to treasonable felony? Where are those charges today?
On 25th.
They have just disappeared.
And more stories now. Vice President Kashim Shettima says that the economy is on the path of recovery and sustained growth. He was speaking at the State House, where cabinet ministers, service chiefs, and some heads of MDAs had joined President Bola Tinubu and other top government officials for the breaking of fast.
Ramadan is a season of forgiveness. It's a season of generosity, which incidentally coincides with the Lent season, which goes to portray the fact that what binds us together exceeds whatever that divides us. This is the time for all of us to rally around our leader, because leadership requires sacrifice. Leadership requires tenacity of purpose. Leadership requires commitment. Honorable Ministers, Service Chiefs, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we have crossed the Rubicon and the nation is on a path to sustain growth. Some nations have gone through war spaces in the annals of their history than us. The President means well for the nation. He has a good heart for the nation, and we have a moral imperative to support him in whatever way we can to salvage the ship of the state. He doesn't subscribe to the idea of apportioning blames. The buck stops on his desk, and he has not shied away from facing some of the gargantuan challenges facing us.
Well, Nigeria has not done well in all areas of sustainable development goals, and that's according to a report by the United Nations Development Programme for 2023. Well, the Human Development Report is a measurement of a country's gross national income per capita, education, and life expectancy, among other developmental index.
The 2023-2024 HDR shows that the path of human development progress, which shifted downwards in 2020, have remained below the pre-2019 trend, threatening to entrench permanent loss in human development gains. In Nigeria, while the HDI value has moved upwards by 22% between 2003 and 2022, her human development remains low at 0.548, placing the country in the low human development category.
As indeed noted in the recent SDG summit, we have only achieved 15% of the SDG target around the world. Almost in every segment, every indicator has shifted downwards, and this in almost every region of the world.
We agree that when you want to measure how a country is doing, how people are faring, you go beyond GDP per capita to get the richer measure that the HDI, Human Development Index, gives you. It is a veritable tool to allow us to benchmark where we are and to focus on where we need to get to.
Now, a few weeks after raising the monetary policy rate by the highest level in its history, the Central Bank of Nigeria's Monetary Policy Committee is set to meet again, this time on the 25th and 26th of this month. It's just a matter of days. But this comes amid concerns over the latest inflation report released by the NBS on Friday last week, which shows that the headline inflation rate soared from 29.9% in January to a 28-year high of 31.7% in February. With this announcement, the CBN MPC has broken the tradition of holding its rate decision meeting bi-monthly as it struggles to bring down inflation with series in interest rate hike. Now, there's a lot more, really, to celebrate for women in the International Women's Month, as Zenith Bank has named Adora Emoji as its very first female group managing director and chief executive. Her appointment, which is subject to the approval of the Central Bank of Nigeria, takes effect from June the 1st. But she takes over from Dr. Ebenezer Onyago, whose 5-year term expires on May the 31st. Before her latest appointment, she had been serving as the bank's deputy managing director since October the 20th, 2016. And outside the country, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken says Gaza's 2 million people are experiencing severe levels of acute food insecurity. Well, this was the first time an entire population has been so classified, he said, when questioned on the conditions in the territory by the BBC. Well, Mr. Blinken called on Israel to prioritize providing for those in need. The UN agencies have said that north of Gaza could face famine by May without a pause in the fighting and a surge in aid. Well, let's talk sports now. Napoli's Victor Osimhen and Taiwo Awoniyi of Nottingham Forest were among the players ruled out of Nigeria's friendly games against Ghana and Mali. The Super Eagles camp for the game opened yesterday, but Africa's Player of the Year, Osimhen, will miss the matches, according to an update on the team's social media page. Osimhen has struggled with fitness in the past weeks and will not make the 22nd and 26th March friendly matches. But he's not the only one out of the games due to injury. Taiwo Awoniyi, who just recovered from a long layoff, has also been sidelined, as well as Gabriel Osho and Tyrone Eboué. The team's assistant, coach George Finidi, will lead Nigeria in international friendlies against Ghana and Mali. Well, all the best to the boys. These are the top stories at this hour. They will shape the conversation during the course of the day, and who knows, in the coming days.